In the basement of La Penta, this is WICR.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Sports Law. Jersey Joe and Big Shot Rob, and it is time. It's not a segment we normally do, but we have an expert, so we might as well bring it up, and it is tennis. Big Shot Rob obviously working at the U.S. Open. Rob, so you have a very good knowledge and passion for the sport. Take me through it, because I think there are so many talking points. There are so many big things that happen. You were there, so you experienced it firsthand. If you had to pick one thing out of everything that you saw, what's the biggest story point?
The biggest story point was the men's championship, Joe. As you know, Joe, I started the U.S. Open back in 2009. And when I started, Roger Federer had just won 5 straight U.S. Opens. And he ends up going into the 2009 one, playing Juan Martín del Potro from Argentina, losing 5 sets. And since I've continued working there, Roger Federer has not been back to the final. So this year's men's final, he makes it all the way back. Probably the happiest moment in my life. I get to watch a little bit of the game. I mean, he lost in 4 sets, but it was a great matchup. We watched him take on Novak Djokovic. Novak Djokovic's a young guy. Federer's up there in his age, almost coming towards the end of his career, but you just watched an older man just battle his heart out. That's one thing I always admire about Federer. No matter how much he's losing, he always battles back. We go the 4th set of this game. He's down 5-2 in games. He ends up winning the next 2 games, down 5-4. He goes up 40-15, and everybody's on their feet. I've never seen the Open like that. Everybody's going insane in that studio because we wanted Federer to win. Inside the stadium, we were all going crazy. He ends up losing, though. Djokovic ends up coming back and winning, but just an extraordinary match because I got to see my favorite player, Roger Federer, finish. He lost in the U.S. Open, but I finally got to see him in another championship, and probably one of the happiest moments of my life.
No, I think that's the biggest thing that I love is that you're there. You can see what we can't. You pick up on those little inside things that we can't. Let's go over to the woman's side for a minute. Obviously, there was as much talk and excitement as there's been in a long, long while. Again, if you have to put one storyline up on the big board, what's it going to be?
The women's championship this year, totally different. I mean, yes, you know what? This year we had Serena Williams going for the epic Grand Slam. She wanted to be the first woman since Stephanie Graf in 1988 to complete this show. You know, a career Grand Slam means you win Wimbledon, the Australian Open, the French Open, and finish it off with the U.S. Open. I mean, she ended up losing in the semifinals, but we had Vinci versus Panetta for the finals. And you know what? It's nice once in a while to see a change. I mean, you always vote for the American with Serena Williams, that you want to see them win the U.S. Open because it's the American event. But you saw Vinci versus Panetta, Panetta beating Vinci 7-6 and then 6-2. And you know what was so great about this match, Joe? It was these girls were so close as friends since the age of 10 years old. They go in after the match, and they're celebrating together. The first time I've ever seen the winner and the loser just celebrate together and have such a great time seeing this on the TV screen. And you know what? This is just such a great event. Panetta retiring after winning the U.S. Open. This will be her last Grand Slam final.
I think that's the interesting thing about it is just when you look at all of this and how big the event is, how much it's growing, and it continues to grow. I want you to be a salesman for a minute, Rob. I want you to sell me. If you had to sell me to kind of pick up tennis and have an interest in tennis, are you starting with the U.S. Open? How are you hooking me in to get attracted to the sport?
Start with the U.S. Open. And one thing I would like to say is, yes, we have our U.S. Open event. Go the week before. Go to qualifying week. That's for people who are trying to make it in last moment for the U.S. Open. And you kind of get to pick up on a story on a player who you might want to watch a couple games because he might go a little bit further in the U.S. Open. And then once the Open starts, it's just an awesome experience, whether it's opening night with the fireworks, playing underneath the lights. And one thing about tennis, you never know what's going to happen. You could come in at 12 o'clock, you might be leaving one match at 4 o'clock because how long these men are going. You have Louis Armstrong, you have the Grandstand, we have Court 17, we have Arthur Ashe right now where we have a retractable roof going up, and the U.S. Open is just a spectacular event. We have so many different food places. We have Ralph, we have Polo, we have Wilson, we have Nike, we have everything there. It's just a great event. Even if you're not there to go into Arthur Ashe, just walking around, you have a great time.
I think that's the thing. Is I think you have to be willing to accept and embrace new sports. I mean, I always talk about it on the air, but I mean, it's kind of the way that it happened to me with soccer. Just if you asked me a couple years ago, I honestly wouldn't have cared at all. I really couldn't have given it a second thought. But you know, when you really give something your attention, you give it a try, you never know what could happen. And now I live and breathe soccer, and I think tennis is kind of one of those things too, where when you really sit down and you think about it and you enjoy it, it just becomes something special. Was that true for yourself? I mean, were you always a tennis guy, or is it one of those things where being around it so much, you really gain that deep respect and appreciation for it?
I mean, you know, as a kid, I kind of, what I saw was like Andre Agassi at the end of his career. I remember like a couple of my first matches I've seen was Rafael Nadal when Federer was just on fire winning Grand Slams, and Rafael Nadal as a young kid coming out and beating him in the French Open. And then once I came to the Open and I got to watch a couple matches, you slowly get used to the whole tennis feeling with, oh, this is how the games are going. You know, you never know what you're gonna expect. You could have an underdog who comes out and just wins in 3 straight sets versus the number 4 seed and number 5 seed. And that's the spectacular thing about tennis. It's just such a great sport, a growing sport, and everybody should start switching over to it. I feel it's this upcoming sport that everybody should get more into. I mean, yes, I know how time-consuming it is, but you have to look at how some of these players just play their hearts out.
Well, you heard it from the man himself. Tennis is the new thing and it's in, so hop on that train. We will hop on to the next train, though, as we roll out for one of the final segments of the first show. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back.